Have you ever wondered about the horrifying Cenobite with chattering teeth from Hellraiser? In the dark and twisted lore of Clive Barker's Hellraiser, few characters stand out like the chatterer Cenobite. While Pinhead may be the most recognizable face of the franchise, Chatterer embodies the silent, grotesque horror of the Cenobites. Behind the grotesque face and chilling sounds lies a tragic story of pain, desire, and transformation. From a troubled human boy named Jim to one of Hell's most loyal servants, Chatterer's journey is as heartbreaking as it is terrifying. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Today, we unravel the full story of Chatterer, the silent, loyal, and terrifying right hand of Pinhead. Let's dive into the haunting legacy of Hellraiser's most enigmatic Cenobite. Chatterer's human origins, Jim's descent into darkness. Before he became a Cenobite, Chatterer was once a young boy named Jim. His childhood was nothing short of tragic. Jim grew up in a toxic and abusive household. At a young age, Jim's life took a dark turn when he framed his mother for the murder of his violent and abusive father. This act led him to be sent to an orphanage where his suffering only deepened. At the orphanage, the adolescents were taught a cruel lesson. They were useless to society. This belief took root in Jim, fueling his feelings of inadequacy. Isolated and broken, Jim found solace in a homosexual relationship with another boy named Seth. During these dark years, Jim would regularly pray to the God of love, desperately yearning for genuine affection, something that had always been absent from his life. As Jim grew older, his life became even darker. At the age of 16, he and Seth turned to prostitution, a grim means of survival that further eroded his already fragile sense of self. Clients often praised Jim's physical appearance, compliments that filled him with disgust. To Jim, their affection was hollow and empty. One fateful day, a client asked Jim what his deepest desire was. At first, Jim replied that he simply wished to be loved. However, when pressed again, his answer revealed the depths of his despair. This time, Jim declared, "I want to be ugly." He believed that if he were stripped of his beauty, people would finally love him for who he truly was, not for his appearance. The client, hearing Jim's haunting confession, handed him a Lament Configuration. The box promised answers to desires both sacred and profane. Unbeknownst to Jim, the Lament Configuration would forever change his life, introducing him to Leviathan, the dark god of pain and desire. A living nightmare, Jim's transformation into Chatterer. Years passed, and Jim's torment continued. He eventually crossed paths with Seth once more. Seth had been brutally blinded as punishment by their former pimp, a consequence of Jim's decision to leave their shared life behind. In this reunion, Jim was given a cruel task by one of Hell's servants. He was told to force Seth to solve the Lament Configuration. Instead of complying, Jim and Seth reconnected, a brief moment of intimacy that quickly turned sour. During their encounter, Seth began to confess his hatred for Jim, blaming him for everything that had gone wrong in his life. The weight of Seth's words haunted Jim deeply. That night, Seth disappeared without solving the puzzle box. However, Jim's fate had already been sealed. Unwittingly, Jim triggered the Lament Configuration himself, unleashing a horror far worse than death. Leviathan, the jealous god of pain and pleasure, granted Jim's twisted wish. In an act of divine cruelty, Jim was forcibly disfigured. His handsome features were torn apart, and his mouth was grotesquely stretched open, leaving his teeth exposed in a permanent, horrific grin. From that moment, Jim ceased to exist. He was reborn as Chatterer. Chatterer's role in Hell's hierarchy. After his transformation, Chatterer became one of Hell's most loyal and brutal servants. He was inducted into Pinhead's Gash, a group of elite Cenobites tasked with delivering punishment to those who sought the Lament Configuration. While Pinhead served as the leader, the Angel of Suffering, Chatterer became his second lieutenant, a role earned through his unparalleled loyalty and skill. Chatterer was often referred to as Hell's right-hand man, a testament to his brutal efficiency and unwavering servitude. His horrifying appearance and signature chattering teeth struck terror into the hearts of those who crossed his path. The sound of his teeth, a rhythmic, unsettling chatter, became synonymous with impending doom. Though Chatterer appeared incapable of speech, his loyalty and actions spoke volumes. In many ways, he embodied the purest form of the Cenobite philosophy: pleasure through pain, order through suffering. Chatterer's encounters with Kirsty Cotton Chatterer first appeared in Clive Barker's Hellraiser, 1987, alongside Pinhead, the female Cenobite, and Butterball. Together, they formed a terrifying quartet tasked with enforcing Leviathan's will. Their primary role was to retrieve escaped souls and deliver them back to Hell's torment. When Kirsty Cotton accidentally solved the Lament Configuration, she summoned the Cenobites. Chatterer was the first to appear, grabbing Kirsty and shoving his fingers down her throat to silence her screams. He restrained Kirsty as Pinhead and the other Cenobites bargained with her, demanding her soul in exchange for the escapee Frank Cotton. Later, when Kirsty tricked Frank into revealing his identity, the Cenobites returned to claim him. Chatterer reappeared with Pinhead and Butterball, lurking ominously in Kirsty's attic. However, when Kirsty once again solved the Lament Configuration, she banished the Cenobites back to Hell, Chatterer included.
No boxes. Such a shame.
Chatterer's death in Hellbound. Hellraiser II. Chatterer returned in Hellbound. Hellraiser II, 1988, where his story took a tragic turn. After Dr. Channard opened the gateway to hell, the Cenobites confronted Kirsty Cotton for a second time. Kirsty, however, made a startling discovery. The Cenobites were once human. Kirsty revealed a photograph of Pinhead's former human self, reminding the Cenobites of their lost humanity. This revelation created a divide within the group, leaving them vulnerable. Enter Dr. Channard, who had transformed into a Cenobite himself. Dr. Channard, now more powerful than Pinhead's gash, turned against them. In the ensuing battle, Chatterer was the third to fall, killed by Channard's hooked chains. His death marked the end of his service to Leviathan, or so it seemed. Chatterer's revival in the comics. While Chatterer's death in Hellbound seemed final, his legacy continued in the Hellraiser comics, published by Boom Studios. In this expanded lore, it was revealed that Pinhead revived both Chatterer and the female Cenobite approximately 20 years after their deaths. Pinhead's revival of his fallen comrades mirrored his own resurrection from the Pillar of Souls, requiring bloodshed at the sites of their deaths. Chatterer was restored to his original form, once again joining Pinhead's gash as his loyal page. However, Chatterer's resurrection was short-lived. Midway through the comic series, Pinhead betrayed his gash as part of a plan to reclaim his humanity. In a moment of pleading, marked by his iconic chattering, Chatterer begged Pinhead for mercy. Instead, Pinhead summoned Hell's hooked chains, which tore Chatterer apart for a final time. This marked the end of Chatterer's tragic arc, a character who began life seeking love and redemption, only to find eternal pain and servitude. Chatterer's legacy. Chatterer's story is a haunting reflection of the Hellraiser mythos, the line between pleasure and pain, desire and despair, beauty and horror. As a human, Jim sought affection and love but found only torment. His wish to be ugly, to be loved for who he was, became his undoing. Leviathan twisted his desire into an eternal nightmare, transforming him into a creature of horror. Yet, even as a Cenobite, Chatterer retained a sense of tragic loyalty. He served Pinhead faithfully, embodying the philosophy of Leviathan to its fullest. His silence, broken only by the eerie sound of his chattering teeth, became a chilling symbol of his suffering. Chatterer's character also highlights the themes of transformation and loss that run throughout Hellraiser. Jim's fate serves as a cautionary tale. The pursuit of forbidden desires often leads to unimaginable consequences. Over the years, Chatterer's influence has extended beyond the films. He remains a fan-favorite Cenobite, appearing in comic adaptations, video games, and fan theories. His grotesque design and tragic backstory continue to fascinate audiences, cementing his place as one of Hellraiser's most iconic characters. Our Nerdy Thoughts Chatterer's story is one of pain, tragedy, and transformation. From his origins as a broken boy named Jim to his servitude in hell as Pinhead's loyal lieutenant, Chatterer's journey reflects the darkest aspects of human desire. Though his tale ends in betrayal and death, his legacy lives on as a haunting reminder of what happens when we open the door to our darkest dreams. In the end, Chatterer is more than just a Cenobite. He is a symbol of suffering, a tragic figure whose chattering teeth echo the pain of a soul forever lost to the horrors of hell. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the haunting story of Chatterer. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more horror lore and breakdowns, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Let us know your thoughts on Chatterer and the Hellraiser universe in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, stay creepy, and we'll see you in the next video.
Now what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.